Welcome to the All That Jazz Stress Relief Podcast. This is the podcast brought to you by my book, by Robert Shute, Do the Thing. If you've got stress, if you have pain, if you want to manage your energy and manage your time better, pick up Do the Thing on Amazon in paperback or ebook. And now, on with the show. Hey everybody, Robert Shute here. I went to Old Navy and I wanted to buy a couple of shirts. So I said to the cashier, here, a couple of shirts. And she said, fine, and what is your email address? And I said, I don't have one. And the store manager was standing right next to the cashier and she said, yeah, right. You just don't want to give it out. And I said, what I just want to do is buy a couple of shirts. So, when they ask, say no, because you don't need more clutter in your inbox. Hey, as a bonus to today's show, I have a blog post at allthatjazz.com for this show. If you check the show notes, you'll see that I have a blog post about dealing with clutter and how clutter affects your life and your productivity. So do check that out at allthatjazz.com. Jazz with two Z's, two Z's if you're nasty. A couple quick things I want to touch on today. An update on my experiment with better productivity by getting rid of my landline and getting rid of my television. So, yes, I'm technically Amish. I think that's all it takes, really, that and having a German accent. I might be messing up my Mennonites. Anyway, the issue was I had too many telemarketers, and the update is it is glorious not to have any telemarketers. I don't have anybody asking me to clean my ducts. I don't have anybody who's bothering me with some kind of scam or survey that'll just take a minute. All that nonsense is gone since I got rid of my landline. And it's fine. We've got cell phones. We're connected. As far as the TV goes, getting rid of it may or may not be for you, but if you're younger, you're probably watching everything on your computer. I sometimes miss CNN, but if you want video, you can go to CNN.com or Huffington Post, certainly. It depends on your area with CNN.com, so where you are in the world. But basically, the problem with watching CNN, I do miss that a little bit because there is so much going on in American politics, and I am a bit of a political junkie. However, I would get that news anyway through some other source, Twitter or whatever. It is just as immediate and much more succinct. Also, let's face it, once you turn on the TV, it doesn't tend to turn off. And so you end up watching CNN until you can't take so many talking heads on the screen. Your head blows up and you turn it off. Not having that option, I find that I'm not wasting that time. I still do have Netflix and I have Amazon Prime, so I can catch video that way. Enjoyed Mr. Robot. I found that in Suits they said, what did you say to me? Much too often. For that show, they must have just one writer or something, because on Suits, there was repeated lines in various seasons. I think it's gone on like 5 or 6 seasons now, amazingly. And one of the seasons, it seemed like every character at some point said, "Do your goddamn job." So, mixed reviews on Suits. But in any case, I will miss Game of Thrones. I am sorry to not be seeing that because I did enjoy that a lot. However, I'll catch it someday, and I'll binge watch it someday on disc or something. I don't know. The benefits far outweigh the costs, is my point, especially in money, because I was trying to save money, because I got a big tax bill, blah, blah, blah. It just didn't make sense to keep it. So if you are thinking about it, I would seriously consider it, because TV and the landline can be a massive time suck. Now, time to move on to the other massive time suck that is almost definitely costing you too much time, and that is social media. The theme of today's pod is distraction, and Facebook and Twitter, these are the king and queen of distraction. So let me make a couple observations and suggestions. Number one, don't start the day with social media, because when you turn to your phone or your iPod as soon as you wake up, you will find that, you woke up at 7:30 eager to start the day, and 28 videos later, as you get sucked into that rabbit warren of videos and posts, suddenly an hour has blown by. You've lost a fresh start to the day. You've lost energy and you've lost time. My larger point is that we have to keep in mind when our energy is high and when our energy is low. And typically, most people wake up refreshed, or you can train yourself to. I used to be a night owl. More on that in a minute. But what I can tell you is that if I reach for the Facebook first thing in the day, before I get my day started, before I get out of bed, then I will waste time in bed just perusing. And we just don't need to peruse that much. I do think there's a great time and place for social media, and that is at otherwise unproductive times. So if you find that you are in need of a break, or if something major is happening and you want to check in, if you wouldn't be productive anyway, then sure, go ahead and check out social media. But in general, I find that the more focused I am and the more aware I am of my time, so the more I track and measure what I'm doing, then the more I change things for the better. Because as I've often said, that which is not measured is not changed. So if you want to track your time like an accountant every 15 minutes, or like a lawyer every 15 minutes, or I find that a little bit too much. I think that you can overcommit to the tracking and end up spending too much time tracking. So I tend to check at the bottom of the hour, so at the half hour or at the top of the hour, or when I hit a natural break. But I don't do tracking just for the sake of tracking. It's to see when and where I am most productive. So do self-monitor and be aware of how you're spending your time. Because if you want to be happier, if you want to be more productive, if you want to make more money, and I think we all do generally, then except for those people who think, I don't, money is filthy and I don't need it. Well, I sure do. I've got kids going to university, so do make those evaluations as they are appropriate for you. I had a client recently come in to the clinic, and she was having a problem, and I helped her with that problem. That was fine. And what I noticed was when she talked about her problem, her breathing and pulse became elevated. She acted more nervous and generally more upset, looked more flushed when she was addressing the issue, and the issue was tied up with her stress. The worse her stress was, the worse the problem was. And so that's what I asked her to self-monitor. When she talked about it, I asked her to do the opposite of what I do when I talk on this podcast. I asked her to take a breath and to slow down and watch her reactions to what she was saying. And when we talk about our problems, often we vent, and that can be helpful, or we vent, it can be very unhelpful. If you find that you're getting more upset, it's time to process more, breathe more, maybe burn off some stress with some exercise. You can certainly seek counseling if you prefer. My suggestion, in addition to that, because counseling is often very helpful with any problem you have, ask a friend, ask a professional, get a medical consultation, whatever your issue is. But certainly watch out for your own responses to what you're speaking about. So earlier in this podcast, I was talking a mile a minute, running downhill, trying to get all the information out as quickly as possible. And now I am talking slower and taking a few breaths in between my thoughts. And not only am I less anxious as I speak, but you are probably less anxious as you hear this. So consider not only what you're saying, but how your body is acting as you say it. Because we are reactive to our thoughts, and sometimes we need to take the time to slow down. Now, earlier in this podcast, I mentioned that I used to be a night owl. That was a response to stimulus that was pretty much self-determined. I always thought of myself as a night owl because that is the pattern that I fell into, and I did not wake up feeling refreshed in the morning. However, I found that when I changed my sleeping times, I slept better and deeper. When I altered my sleep environment, made it darker, when I went to bed earlier, when I got up earlier. At first it was a difficult transition, but soon I found that I wasn't a night owl by some kind of genetic fiat. It was really a personal choice. It's not a genetic determination, but a personal choice. And by altering my habits and behaviors, what I found was I could get up earlier and be more productive the earlier I got up, as long as I got a good night's sleep. Don't get up just for the sake of getting up. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does this thing where he's up way early, and that's fantastic. I think he's very productive. But if you didn't get to sleep until 2 in the morning, then don't think that you're going to do yourself and your body any favors by getting up at 5. But if you got to bed early and then you wake up early, then fantastic. But if you do consider yourself a night owl, take a look at when you're most productive and when you're least productive. And if you're going to stay up late, do you need a nap in the afternoon? Can you manage to do that with your schedule? A lot of people can't. I would also consider that our collective intelligence, our body intelligence, is to go to bed when it gets dark and get up when it gets light out. Our hormonal responses, our melatonin is very much tied into getting up when it's dawn. I don't know if you heard that. I was just told it's 10 o'clock, so I should be going to bed soon too. I'll post this before I go to bed, but just take a minute, I think. So my point is that if you're going to make those choices of staying up late, make sure, I used to feel like I was most productive between 11 and 2 in the morning. Now I find it much more productive if I start the day early and get more work done early. And then the rest of the day is free to do other things. The rest of the day I can do other tasks that require less of my most intense work. So I tend to do something that's easier to do late at night, like podcasting, for instance. Hey, I may be a bit tired, but I can talk. So those are my suggestions for today, is take a look at when you look at your measurement, look at how productive you are, how much you can get done, and when you are most sharp and focused and dealing with your work most intensely. Because the stuff that is the hardest stuff to do should be done when you are at your peak, certainly. And with that, we're coming up on 15 minutes, so I'm going to close the podcast for today. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please check out allthatchaz.com. You'll find some books there for sale that are happy distractions and fun distractions. I also write sci-fi and crime thrillers. And I find that that's starting to take off, so I'm very grateful for that. If you support me as a reader, thank you very much. If you want to support this podcast, you can also check out the Patreon link. Just click the button that says Become a Patron. And with that, I'll finish the podcast for today. You've been listening to me, Robert Chute. Thank you for listening. And this has been the All That Chaz Stress Relief Podcast. Now check out allthatchaz.com. See you next week.